A few months ago, we were having our staff Thank God It's Friday event, and one of my leaders actually fell in the middle of a game. I thought it was absolutely wonderful the way he pivoted from that. He literally asked people to take pictures of him on the floor, and then again went ahead to ask if anyone had a video recording of the incident so he could share with his family. I also remember a time when I was at a retreat. Wonderful woman of God that I was, as I was slain in the spirit, I fell and I was praying, and guess what? My wig rolled off. And I stayed there, continued to talk, continued to pray, and then got up and not only laughed at myself about the incident, but I've actually used that to share in public fora about that experience and my learnings from it. Many times in the course of my speaking engagements with business leaders and different communities, I have shared about the fact that I tend to be scared, uncertain in different situations. And I've actually had some people come to me and ask, did you really need to say that much? Did you need to reveal this aspect? But I tell you what, more people than not have come to me and said, I'm so glad you said this because it's an encouragement to me. Hey, I suspect you're still thinking about the wig that flew off and wondering what I look like. Please focus. I actually bring these examples to the fore because I want to ask us the question that as leaders, why is it that we feel that we need to posture as being infallible, as if we're ever knowing, as if we've got it all, figured out together? When we position as those kinds of people, I promise you that God is more than able to create situations that humble you enough to show that you're just human after all. And this brings me to the conversation I would like us to have today. It's centered around this theme of leadership authenticity and asking ourselves the question, how vulnerable should we really be as leaders? Vulnerability can be seen as being weak. And indeed, it used to be that leaders were under this kind of pressure to not be true to themselves, to always look like they were in control. And yes, being vulnerable has a tendency to expose you to the risk of being hurt emotionally, physically, psychologically. But the reality is that for leaders who want to practice vulnerability, they have to understand that vulnerability does not mean that you want to share your entire life story. It doesn't mean that you want to dissolve into a pool of tears. But it's about you coming to the place of full self-awareness, owning your strengths and your weaknesses, and you being open enough to share them with people. It's about you recognizing that vulnerability is actually a superpower. It's you showcasing that you are human and that your strengths do not undermine your weaknesses or vice versa. It is you just saying, I am actually not a be-all and end-all, and that I can step back and allow my people to bridge my gaps where I don't have the competence. It's about you not being afraid to show that you don't understand, that you have concerns or anxieties about a thing or a line of action or a business decision. So as a leader, yes, you might be finding yourself in a place of a constant pressure to perform at a higher level than others because we're the ones who are expected to set vision, we're the ones expected to answer the tough questions, we're the ones expected to take the actions and positions that then bring results and fruition of all our efforts. And before, yes, it used to be that vulnerability will be treated as a liability or a weakness for leaders in the times past. But the truth is that things are changing. The world is a very different place today, and people are looking for real leaders. Even in ministry, for instance, don't you find that when you're listening to messages from men and women of God who are sharing their own stories of brokenness, their own journey, you find it more relatable, more powerful, and definitely more inspiring. So as leaders, we want to question ourselves constantly as to how we are presenting ourselves and what lens are we going to hide our own vulnerabilities, our own weaknesses, and our own struggles. Being vulnerable allows you to be your most authentic best self. And this is something that I preach all the time. And it allows other people to truly see you. And quite frankly, as a leader, it is a powerful tool that you can use to empower others. So contrary to popular belief, being vulnerable doesn't mean, like I said earlier, that you want to come and share all your deep secrets. It means, however, that you want to lower your fences a bit, that you want to, be comfortable enough to let your guard down, that you want to set all pretenses aside and just be yourself. Being vulnerable as a leader means that you and I have to not be afraid to admit that we don't have the answers. We don't have to worry about being wrong. We don't have to worry about always saying the right thing. And sometimes vulnerability means that we just keep quiet and listen, because we can learn so much from other people's ideas and their own responses to questions. As a vulnerable leader, you are one that is very open to delegation. You're not worried about looking less able. You can readily admit that someone else might be better suited for the task at hand, even in your meetings and engagements. So you as a vulnerable leader are able to admit that this is not my area of strength, and I'm ready to leverage on the strengths, the capacities and competencies of my team, instead of struggling alone with your weaknesses because you want to maintain some facade of competence and control. You know what? People actually see through this, and in my view, it diminishes you in their eyes. Vulnerability means that you're able to own your own mistakes and not just cover it up with your position and power. It is you literally saying to those around you, hey people, I am just as human as you are. I am also still learning and growing on this journey of life. I have my own struggles too. I have capacity, yes, and that's why I've gotten to leadership. I have positioning, yes, but I know that if you don't help me to lift my hands, the strain can literally break me. So this is you saying to the world, I need you as much as you need me. Let's even look at this from a biblical perspective. You remember the story in the book of Exodus 18. It was where Moses' father-in-law Jethro came to see the amazing work that Moses was doing, sorting out the problems of his people. But in verse 17, Jethro said something to Moses. He said, "This is not the right way to do this. It is too much work for you to do alone. You cannot do this job by yourself. It will wear you out and it will make the people tired too." This is the thing then about being vulnerable, recognizing that nobody is expecting you to do everything, and that if you try to position as the one who can sort everything out, as the only one who knows the answers, as the only one who knows what is best, my dear friend, it will wear you out. And guess what? It makes your people tired too. Because when we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable as leaders, it's draining on our teams. In truth, they're always trying to manage us. They're always trying to find how best to deal with our gaps without making us seem diminished, because they know that's how we feel. And quite frankly, in the process, they're also struggling to find avenues of self-expression for themselves. Vulnerability, according to Brené Brown, who is the best-selling author of the book, The Power of Vulnerability, she says, is actually the best measure of courage. As leaders, we want to be asking ourselves, how strong are we? How bold are we to allow our people to grow as we grow as well? You want to be that leader that is open enough to allow your people to shine, because you know that their shine only makes your light brighter. Yes, I repeat, being vulnerable as a leader does not mean you just put everything out there. You need to have boundaries, right? But there is a way that Simon Sinek, popular author we all know about, captured so appropriately this theme around leadership vulnerability. And he said, a leader, first and foremost, is a human. And it is only when we have the strength to show our vulnerability that we can truly lead. I hope that this has been useful today. And I hope that some of the things I've said would have touched you in a way that you do an internal reassessment as to how you are positioning as a leader, and allow yourself to be vulnerable so that situations and circumstances don't humble you in the process of the facade that you think you must necessarily have. The world is calling for us to be our very best selves. So bring your best you to the table, weaknesses, strengths, and all. Take care.